Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the second session of two of our daily Q&A. When I say daily on weekdays Q&A. For me, it's the first one Wednesday. I don't think one of us has been in Monday, Tuesday. Adil will corroborate that for me. He is still absent with his illness, so continue to make dua. I don't know if there's been any updates on that. He should be back in a few weeks' time, I hear. The good news is, alhamdulillah. So that's a sign of positivity, a sign of him moving in the right direction. So continue to make dua for him. So Manaf Sahab is back here on the settee dealing with your questions and answers on Monday and Tuesday. Remember, I did say that we will have a second session. We need the calls because we're going to be out of time due to the position of Isha Adhan now in the middle of our session. Therefore, please do get your calls in early. The number to call is 01274 214299. That's 01274 214299. The email is q&a@iqra.tv. That's q&a@iqra.tv. And we have a question that has come to us via email. We'll get to that question shortly. What I want to do is I want to deal with some of the questions that we have received on our social media platform, as I said to you. So let's deal with those questions first. Assalamu alaikum, brother. As you have mentioned, cup or renting a property, if we took the cup for 6 months, then yes, we have to return it because the person owns it, loses it, and also apply for renting property. But in this case, the person who owns the photo doesn't lose anything. The person who owns the cup, he loses for 6 months of the property, but the owner does not lose. Please correct me if I have not understood correctly. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That example I just gave you was because to explain to you about ownership of property and the fact of a person using that property. When it comes to something which is your produce, something that you have made, something that you own, and you are giving the rights to that thing. So this is rights. So if you are selling the rights to use that thing, that use that item, use that product, then that is what you are earning your money upon. Nowadays, obviously, a person can invent. So let's just say you have a research department. Let's take the issue you said there of that image. So let's just say some photographer has flown out to South America. And when he's flown out to South America, he has gone and he has captured the image of a particular bird which is not available anywhere else. He then gets back on the plane and he flies back to the UK, and then he takes that image, he processes it, he puts effort on it. He then now goes around and starts to promote it and try to sell it to somebody. And therefore, that's how he makes his money. That's how he makes his living. Or on the other hand, he decides to sell it via the internet. So he places the image on the internet and he says, you know, I'm selling this product for this price for £100 or £200. Now you said, well, I can't afford it. Well, the problem is that this chap has obviously accumulated a debt by, buying expensive photography equipment. I was with some cameramen the other day, and they were telling me, certain equipment is thousands of pounds each. So that's how much that costs. So he's invested all that money into it. And similarly, when he goes to fly to a far out country, then all the costs associated with that. And then obviously with having a website and running the website. So you can see all these costs. And the way he makes money is by selling that product. Now, if he put that product freely available on the internet and everybody just downloaded it and used it, then he would make no money. So that is his business. That is his mal. So this is the reason why that it is not correct for you to use his wealth, because he's not given you the permission to use it in that way. So how can you use something that, even though you are saying it is not like the cup and the house, which it is obviously not exactly like that. That was just to give you an example of the concept of using something which belongs to somebody and having to pay for that. And therefore, this belongs to somebody. And even though you're saying, well, yes, he can still sell that to somebody else, but it is his item. And that is the conditions that he has applied to it. And even if we put that to one side, it is a law. And that law applies to you in which country you are in. And according to the Sharia, if there is a law which is applied into a country, then you have to abide by that law. It's even, there are numerous cases where sometimes that law can go against certain Islamic principles. And as yet, we've not seen where that Islamic principle ends up being the position to adopt, even in those circumstances. In these circumstances, obviously, this is not affecting the Sharia in the sense, because it's not making us commit an act which is against our religion. So therefore, we are not individuals who will do any khiyana or any deception. Assalamu alaikum. My question is, I've heard that it is sunnah to have only one wife. Is this correct? Seems to be contradictory to the Prophet since he had more than one wife after his wife passed away. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a strange question. You said, I've heard that it is sunnah to have only one wife. Is this correct? It's hearsay, if this is just hearsay, then I don't see the benefit in hearsay. So only when you hear something from a scholar, then you should be saying that I heard somewhere. If this is just amongst people, then, from whom are you taking your religious matters? So there's no point quoting, for example, somebody who has no religious acumen, no religious expertise at all. There's no point quoting that person at all. However, if you are quoting somebody who is a person of religion, that this person is of religious learning, then ask the person that question, that why have you said that this is sunnah, when as I understand it, I don't think it is, and explain why you don't think it is. But anyway, since you've asked the question, I'll answer it. As I said, it's a bit of a strange way in which you've posed this question. It is not, nikah is sunnah. But clearly, how can it be sunnah to marry one woman when the Prophet ﷺ had numerous wives? So that doesn't make sense. And as you have said as well, it doesn't make sense. So I don't know how to answer it apart from say, yes, it doesn't make sense. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you are well, Mufti Sahab. In a 4 rakat fard salah, if by accident a person recites with Surah Fatiha a surah, then is it necessary to perform sajda sahwi? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You asked me this question privately, and as I said, brother, these questions are supposed to be put onto the gents group, not to be asked privately, because the whole reason why we have these groups open and the reason why I answer them at a certain time is because that is when I'm available. And when we start asking questions privately on, from numerous different people, then obviously I cannot keep up with that. So please ask the questions on this group. Then when I say to you that put it on the group and you placed it on the group, so I said, but I've already answered it to you privately. So your answer then was that, oh yes, I wanted others to benefit from it. Well, if you wanted others to benefit from it, then why didn't you pose the question on the first place on this group, which is the rules? Anyway, so as I said, sometimes we get some strange requests. It's better if we follow the rules and life would be simple for everybody. So no, it is not necessary to perform sajda sahwa, as I answered to you originally. And that, dear brothers and sisters, brings us to the end of the questions that I have received on the various gents and ladies group. Still no call on 01274214299. Please don't be shy. You have a few minutes left, so if you do call, you will come through, you will be patched through into the studio, and we will be able to deal with your queries. If, on the other hand, you don't call, then, that's it. If you call in a few minutes' time, it might not be sufficient time. You'll have to wait then till tomorrow. One of the questions that we did get via email, which has disappeared from my screen, it will appear shortly. Yes, here it is. So let me just take a sip of this as I was leaning forward. Bismillah. And the question we have is, a lady is asking that my father will not let me get married on the grounds that I should complete my education first. Now, it is reported in a narration of the Prophet ﷺ, and I just paraphrase, that if a young lady reaches the age of marriage, yani pas bulugh, and a suitable suitor is available, and he does not proceed, the father does not proceed with that marriage, then the sin that that young lady engages in will also be on the father. We know physically when we reach a certain age, when we start to get close to bulugh, never mind get to bulugh, when we start to get close to bulugh, when we're 11, 12, 13 years old, we start to develop an interest and a desire in the opposite sex. It is natural, and we start to look at, in the case of men, as young boys, we start to look at girls, and girls start to look at boys, or at least the interest starts to develop in the heart. Young people can then also experience wet dreams due to now the fact that their bodies are ready for physical interaction. So by the time they're hitting 15 years old, 16 years old, and usually they are in mixed environments like schools and colleges, so they are talking to girls, and boys are talking, and girls are talking to boys, or should we say young adults rather than girls and boys. It makes them sound very innocent. So young adults are talking to each other. And then we say, oh, you can, and so they're now developing a physical need to be with the opposite sex. They're mixing into with each other, they're talking to each other, naturally they can start falling in love with each other. If then the lady and the chap are not allowed to pursue their relationship in a halal way, which is to perform nikah, and rather what they do now is, knowing that my father is not going to allow me to get married, they engage in illicit relationships and start to commit zina. Then what kind of a father is that person that stands in the way of his daughter to marry in a halal way, and actually in essence condones and supports her engaging in a haram way? If he says, well, I don't want her to engage in a haram way as well, well, with all due respect, when a person is, and if he means by complete my education, I'm assuming this is to degree level at least, if not beyond degree level, then if a person is studying till the age of 23 or 25 or 27 or 29, and they became baligh at 14, 15 years old, then that's nearly 14, 15 years. How is a person supposed to refrain from any physical contact, in this case with a man, for 15 years and be in a constant environment where now unfortunately we're always seeing these type of images, this type of behavior in our face and in day-to-day programs? Not that, a person has to watch a certain program, just day-to-day TV or day-to-day billboards or whatever. So it is absolutely incorrect. We hear similarly when we say, ladies will not marry a man who does not have a regular job, who does not have X thousands of pounds in his bank account, who does not have a certain size house and things like that, or has his own house. Well, if you're going to wait for a man to have a steady job and have thousands of pounds in his bank account and have his own house, you're going to wait till he's, 30, 35 years old. Even then he'll have a mortgage. How old are you going to be? 22, 23? You're going to also be 30, 35 years old. So by the time you marry, you've missed all your youthful days of marriage. You are now both approaching middle age. What kind of a marriage is that going to be when the two people are middle-aged? So unfortunately, we've entered into these strange circumstances. And also one hadith which is crystal clear, the Prophet ﷺ said, "An-nikahu min sunnati, faman raghiba min sunnati falaysa minni." That nikah is from my sunnah. Marrying is from my sunnah. That person who turns away from my sunnah is not of me, is not from me, is not part of me, is not my follower. So anybody who chooses a path other than nikah is clearly, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, you are not my follower. Because I performed nikah, I married. And as you are choosing not to marry, instead you are choosing other ways to achieve the same goal, then you are not considered as my follower. So I hope I have given a detailed response to that query, to that question. So it is understood that in that case, that marriage obviously is something which should be pushed. Marriage is something that should be encouraged. Marriage is something that should be, called upon. We cannot stop human activity. You cannot stop human behavior. Humans will be humans. And when we reach a certain age, we also have other needs which are not met. And there's no need for them when we're young. And the only way they can be met is through this halal method. So, inshallah, that is a detailed question. We didn't get any calls. Maybe you were interested in the answers or the questions that we'd already received and you were listening to them. I'll let you off if that's the case. I won't let you off tomorrow though. Tomorrow, inshallah, is Thursday. It's another day. More Q&A. Remember the number. Don't call in now, but do save the number for tomorrow. 01274 214299. Please do call in. I will be at hand to deal with your queries, inshallah ta'ala, just after 7 p.m. Up until just short or up to rather 8 p.m. inshallah tomorrow and on Friday for more questions and answers. If on the other hand you're feeling a little bit shy, drop us an email at Q&A at iqra.tv. That's Q&A at iqra.tv. So inshallah we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, same time, same place. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.